Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world that you're joining us from today. My name is Mande Muyangwa, and I am the director of the Wilson Center's Africa program. We have many special guests present for today's event, including members of the Tanzanian delegation, business leaders, African and US ambassadors, senior US officials, Wilson Center and African Program Advisory members, as well as partners and friends of the Wilson Center. We welcome you all. On behalf of the Wilson Center, I would like to welcome you all to this discussion on a new day for US-Tanzania relations, a conversation with the President of Tanzania. We welcome the Tanzanian delegation who are joining us for this very important discussion. We would also like to welcome officials from multilateral organizations who are also here, and a special welcome to the US Ambassador to Tanzania who is with us today. Through its Africa program, the Wilson Center works to address the most critical issues facing Africa and US-Africa relations, to build mutually beneficial US-Africa relations, and to enhance knowledge and understanding about Africa in the United States. As we work on this mission, we seek to engage with Africa at both the continental and country levels. So we are honored to have this opportunity today to host a very special guest, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. She will be sharing with us a vision for the country, as well as what we can do to enhance US-Tanzania relations, to strengthen the mutually beneficial relations between the two countries, and also update us on Tanzania's state today. We were honored to host President Kikwete at the Wilson Center in 2015, and we are delighted that Mama Samia is continuing this tradition. We hope, Madam President, that you feel that the Wilson Center will be a home away from home for you, and that this is the first of maybe a few more visits, even though we know you're busy running a country. Right.
Definitely, yes.
Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce my boss, Ambassador Mark Green, to officially open the event, introduce our special guest, and get our proceedings underway. Ambassador Mark Green is President and CEO of the Wilson Center. He has a long and distinguished career, including serving as a member of Congress, US Aid Administrator, President of the McCain Institute, and President of the International Republican Institute. He is also one of the most respected voices and leaders on Africa and US-Africa relations. All of us know that Africa is near and dear to him, and I know that today's event means a lot to him, given that he served as US Ambassador to Tanzania from 2007 to 2009. Balozi Green, over to you.
Asante sana. Karibu, Mheshimiwa. When I arrived in Dar es Salaam in mid-2007 as the U.S. Ambassador to Tanzania, I didn't realize it then, but the following months would be the most rewarding ones of my professional career. Now, some people love Tanzania for its raw beauty, from Kilimanjaro to Zanzibar, from Jane Goodall's Gombe to the Serengeti Plains. But not me. I love Tanzania for its people. Hardworking and hospitable, optimistic and generous. Tanzania has nearly unlimited potential. It always has. What it needs most, is inspirational and aspirational leadership. They've often had it, from Mwalimu Nyerere, Jakaya Kikwete, and they may just have it again. When President Hassan was sworn in last year, she became the 6th president of Tanzania, the 3rd female head of government in an EAC country, Tanzania's first female president, having served as its first female vice president. She's still a little new to the presidency, but she is hardly new to government and leadership. Before becoming vice president and president, she was Minister of State for Union Affairs, a member of Parliament for Makunduchi, a member of Zanzibar's House of Representatives and Zanzibar's Ministry of Tourism, Trade, and Investment. She was born in Zanzibar, has an advanced degree in public administration, a postgraduate degree in economics, and a master's degree. She took office in March of 2021 after the death of President Magufuli. Since then, she has charted her own course, as the New York Times puts it, striving to bring Tanzania in from the cold. And our conversation today will explore just what that means. Madam President, again, welcome. It is good to have you. I don't know if you have a few thoughts that you'd like to share before we get into questions.
Yeah, thank you, Balozi Green, for inviting me and my delegation here. And when I get in, I was a little bit nervous. Said all those people, but I think we'll be having a good discussion. Thank you.
So this is not your only stop in the U.S.
Yeah.
This is after a few days and a few stops. What have been your goals for this visit, and do you think you've accomplished them? Of course, we know that Wilson Center is the highlight, obviously, of your journey.
Yeah.
But goals and achievements, do you think?
Yeah, actually, my trip to USA was for launching the Royal Tour, the film which aims at representing Tanzania to the world. The films which is explaining the natural beauty of Tanzania, as you have rightly said it, but then the potentials, economic potentials, trade and investment potentials in Tanzania. So with that one, yes, we did it right, and the mission was accomplished because we launched it in New York, and after the launch, I've been receiving feedbacks from throughout the world, positive feedbacks. But then yesterday we were in Paramount Pictures, Paramount Studios in Los Angeles, and the film was shown to like 200 people in the theater. And the feedback I'm getting that all the people liked our film, and they were inspired to visit Tanzania. But Balozi Green, as you know, that when you enter into somebody's country or home, you have to knock the door and greet the host. So I had a chance to meet the Vice President, Her Excellency Kamala Harris, and we had a good discussion concerning our relation, Tanzania-USA relation. As you are aware, we had a very long-standing historical relation since 1961. And this year, I think last year or this year, we are marking 60 years of our relation. So we had a chat and thought that we have to have a new model of our relation. But then we have started chatting the new model because previously it was aid, but now we are talking of aid for trade, or trading for mutual benefits, and not aid alone. So we had a very good discussion. We agreed on how to cooperate for social economic development of our countries. As you are aware that Tanzania is benefiting a lot with different projects from USA. We do have the ODA under the implementation of USAID, and USAID has been working or is working in different sectors like agriculture and food security, water and sanitation, education and environment, so many sectors. But then we have been working under the program of PEFPA, that's Presidential Fund for AIDS, and Tanzania has been benefiting a lot on that. Then we have been working on PMI, Presidential Malaria Initiative. We got a lot of support on eliminating malaria, but still a lot need to be done for complete elimination of malaria. Then we have been working with the USA on Millennium Challenge Corporation, Millennium Challenge account. Unfortunately, it was stopped in 2016. Again, the Feed for Future program Tanzania was about to benefit and it was stopped. But we had a good chat with Madam Kamala, and we had a frank discussion and telling me why these two programs were stopped. And the U.S. is seeing that those reasons are now not there in Tanzania, and so they'll be thinking of listing Tanzania back to benefit in these projects. So with Madam Kamala, we had a very good chat. We even looked at our development program for 2020-2025 with the U.S. And yes, we have agreed in a number of projects in that. But again, we had a look into the COVID-19. And frankly speaking, the U.S. government has been supporting Tanzania a lot because we agreed to accept that the COVID-19 was a reality, and it left no country in this world, and so Tanzania was too severely hit. And we started taking actions, looking at the scope and magnitude of the problem. Then the technical committee came up with a number of recommendations, and one of those recommendations was for Tanzania to join the COVAX facility. We did so, and through that, we have been benefiting, getting the vaccines for Tanzanian vaccination program. And thanks to the U.S. government, they have donated about close to 5 million doses. And we've been able to vaccinate almost 12% of our targeted population. And the campaign is still rolling on. People are still vaccinating, though in a very slow pace, but it's continuing.
So I think in some ways that's perhaps what the New York Times meant when they said Tanzania coming in from the cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you began that implementation plan last July, so 12%, but in a relatively short period of time. So
Yeah.
you have been striving. Well, if I can, let me talk a little bit more about some of these policies, because so you've only been president for just over a year.
Yes.
But you have blazed your own trail, and I think that's what audiences are most interested in hearing about.
Yes.
For example, you have reversed the previous policy, and adolescent mothers can now return and continue their education.
Yes.
And that was something that an earlier policy was something that I think many had noticed, but now you have reversed that and said, no, girls should continue on in their education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did that because we have a policy of free education to every child. Every child, be it a boy or a girl, has to get his or her own education to the extent of his or her ability. And we had this, it wasn't a policy actually, it was maybe a directive or a ban that pregnant adolescents shouldn't go back to school. But then it was mostly affecting the poor ones, because the haves were not affected, because after giving birth, the parents would just take the girl to the private school, pay there, and she continues with education. But those who can't do that, they have notes. They were just staying home.
Yeah.
And we came with a decision that every dropout, whoever wants to go back to school, should go back to school. So it was for the girls, the adolescent mothers, the boys who dropped out of school. And fortunately, this call was nicely replied. We have a number of adolescent mothers now attending school.
That's great.
Although we had some challenges with some people not agreeing on that, thinking that those mothers, when they go back to school, they are going to influence others to follow their route. But what we have done is we took some of them in the formal stream of education, having their own classes. You might find a class of 45 adolescent mothers there, turning back to school. They're learning on the formal stream of education. But then we have other stream, we call it alternative education, whereby they are taught the formal stream plus the skills knowledge, so that they can do the income generating activities for them to be able to keep themselves and their babies. So yeah, we did it, and fortunately it was nicely received by the community, and the boys and girls, they are now back to school.
Another area that many of us have noticed, there seems to be a new reaffirmation to the importance of democracy and debate.
Yes.
You have met recently with opposition leaders
Yes.
who had either left the country or in one case was in jail after the last elections, and you've sent a new message out about the importance of debate.
Yes. Yeah, because I think in order to have a peaceful and to bring cohesion for the whole Tanzanian community, I think we have to start with reconciliation, to reconciliate with all the political parties and all those who have been in one way or another aggrieved by any action. So we started talking. I started talking with the political parties, and you have said it right, that one of those political leaders was behind bars, and the same day I decided to take him out, and the same day I met him, and we had a very good discussion. We have agreed to build a trust to govern on the basis of justice, and so that's the trend we have agreed to operate on. And I have formulated a task force from within the political parties, plus religious leaders, police officers, civil society organizations. They formed a task force of which I've entrusted them to look into the gaps which are existing, political gaps, governance gaps which are existing, and for them to come up with the recommendations to the government, and we see, all of us, how we can implement it. The objective is to have peaceful political undertakings.
And you've lifted the ban on a number of media houses.
Yes. The objective was also to give a democratic space to everybody. So that's my move. And I think God will help me on that.
Yes. Well, and I've noted that sessions of Parliament of the Bunge are now televised again.
Yes.
Now, is that simply for entertainment value? And what we would say here in the U.S., sometimes it is very humorous watching members of Congress.
And we want people to see how the representatives in the Parliament, how do they work? Yeah, so it's open. Yeah. It's open. Everybody can have a chance to listen.
Again, I think it's another way with what the New York Times had said about coming in from the cold, because I say respectfully, as a friend of Tanzania, I think that was perhaps the biggest concern here, was that we were losing democratic space.
Yes.
And at the same time, we see it being restored, and we are your champions. We think that those are great moves. Something I'd like to pick up on, though, that I think is perhaps even more important. You talked about the importance of not simply aid, but aid with trade, aid for trade. And as the former head of USAID, that is music to my ears. But what goes along with that is making sure that Tanzania is open for business
Yes.
and open for investment, not just from the U.S., but investment from around the world, and that's something that's very important to you.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it's true. And I think it was in February we were in Dubai attending the expo, and our message was Tanzania is ready to take off. So we are inviting the investors from wherever in the world to come to Tanzania, and whenever we agreed on the terms, we can work with them. Tanzania realized that economic growth is about working with the private sector. And so we have reviewed our policies. We are now embracing the private sector, working closely with them. And it's our belief that private sector can bring in the FDIs in the country and causing the economic growth of the country. So we have made a lot of reforms, legal and fiscal reforms, creating a favorable, conducive environment for the private sector to thrive working in Tanzania. So yes, the world has heard what we have done, and it's only last year Tanzania Investment Center has recorded double number of projects, FDIs, than it was in the previous years. So, like for example, in 2019-2020, we recorded projects estimated at around $1 billion. But last year alone, we had projects of about $8 billion. So there is a progress. Tanzania now is open and investors are coming in.
The timing is important as well. We know that in much of the world, certainly in the West, we have people and countries looking to diversify from dependence on Russian gas and oil. And so maybe this is the opportunity for Tanzania to be one of those sources that the world can look to diversify from Russia.
Yeah, and fortunately we are working with the big names in Tanzania. We do have Equinor, we have Shell, and they have their own consortium, but those are the big two. And they do own the gas deposits in Tanzania, so I'm sure...
Which are significant.
Significant. So I'm sure through them, they are going to connect Tanzania to the world in this business.
And beyond oil and gas, it's also critical minerals. At the same time that the world is looking for movement towards a greener economy and greener energy sources, Tanzania just happens to have some of those critical minerals.
Yes.
So Tanzania can play a major role in that aspect of energy as well.
Yes, you're right. On energy, actually, we are working hard. By maybe 2025, we should have about 6,000 megawatts of energy, electricity. And this is coming from the renewable, the green sources like water. As you are aware, we are constructing a bigger dam that will produce about 2,115 megawatts. But then we have the Ruhuji and Rumakali projects, also hydro, that one is going to produce 222 megawatts and another one about 500 megawatts. But then we have solar. We are now working on solar, of which solar we are expecting to produce like 600 to 700 megawatts. But we're working on wind. We have started harvesting later, but we are going step by step. And then we are under research for thermal energy. So yes, we are going to be a big producer on energy, and gas as well.
And gas as well.
We are using gas as well,
You touched upon something that is a challenge. Well, it's a challenge for the world, but a challenge for East Africa in particular. I was talking to a business person from Tanzania, and he said that the fallout from Ukraine is affecting fertilizer, and that there's a concern that farmers in Africa won't have the same access to fertilizer that they might have at another time. Is that's a challenge that you are facing?
Yes, yes, it is a challenge we're facing. Like last season, our farmers didn't have much fertilizer, and so the first season of the year, agriculture is going to be affected. We don't expect that we'll be having high yield as we used to have due to lack of fertilizer. But then we have taken steps in Dodoma. We are constructing a factory which is going to produce about 2,000 tons of fertilizer. And out of that, some will be exported, but some will be used in the country. But then we have the Minjingu fertilizer factory, of which also producing some. But we know the requirement, the need, the demand for fertilizer in the country is huge.
Yeah.
So we are now negotiating with some companies which have shown intention to come and invest producing fertilizer using gas products, byproducts. Okay. Yeah. So maybe in the 3-4 years to come, we'll be having our own fertilizer in the country. Yeah.
So all challenges, economic challenges, are unfortunate, but they also present economic opportunities.
Opportunities, yes, yes.
So I mentioned that most people fall in love with Tanzania for its natural beauty. I fall in love with the people, but I like the natural beauty. So perhaps you can talk a little bit. I'm sure on this trip you've been talking a lot about tourism and the importance of the biodiversity and your parks. And then there's some place called Zanzibar, which you know very well.
Yes.
So perhaps you can talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to ecotourism and conservation.
Ecotourism and conservation, yeah. Fortunately, Tanzania, we are very much gifted. We do have beautiful physical features surrounded by abundance of natural wealth, talking from Indian Ocean, the lakes, Lake Victoria, Tanganyika, and Lake Nyasa, rivers, mountains, led by the greatest mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. But then Tanzania is having forestry. A vast area is covered by forestry. We are cutting, but we are planting. Yeah. But again, Tanzania do have the game parks and wildlife. Sometimes I used to joke that the Noah's Ark went as far as Tanzania. And that's where all the animals were offloaded. And they ran to Serengeti and Ngorongoro, Ruaha,
Whether or
and some
not
areas.
it's true, it's a good story.
Yes,
and probably put it in advertising.
yes. So we have a lot of wildlife.
Yeah.
We have the big fives, which are not hard to find them. You can just locate them when you're in Serengeti, Ngorongoro, or Ruaha. So Tanzania is actually very much endowed with natural resources, natural wealth. We have a new terminology of blue economy. And by blue economy, we mean exploiting the resources from the sea, from the lakes, like deep sea fishing, aquaculture, water sports, all those activities. So we are proud that we have a lot of potential, a lot to offer to the world.
Indeed.
For trading, investment, and tourism as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
How would you describe the state of U.S.-Tanzania relations? How do you see where we are now, and what is your hope for the future?
As I said before, it's a long historical relation, and we have been working well, cooperating well, bilaterally, also at the international forum. But then, as human beings, somewhere, somehow, it didn't go well. But now, after my discussion with Kamala Harris, I'm expecting the future to be bright. We have agreed to strengthen the relation to further heights. And of course, there are a number of projects and programs of which we have agreed that we are going to implement. And USAID is there for us. And it has very well embarked on working on the 5 years development plan. And so for me, I can see a bright future ahead.
Madam President, you've been very generous with your time. We are honored that you are joining us here today.
Thank you.
And talking about your vision for the future.
Yeah.
I think you have laid it out well. I think that there is a long, healthy, productive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There was a brief time when it was perhaps strained a little bit, but let's see, Tanzania is coming in out of the cold and is open for business. I think those are all things that people like to hear. And again, we hope this is just the first of many visits that you have here.
Oh, yes.
And that you enjoy the rest of your trip here in the States, although again, we know that this has been the highlight. Thank you, Madam President.
It has been my pleasure to be at the Wilson Center. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's my first time, and definitely it's not going to be the last.
That sounds
Thank
good.
you very much.
Music to our ears. Thank you.